Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the St. Mark's Kids Chat. We have a friend who's joining us today for the Kids Chat. We're very excited to have her here. Our lesson for today is about Jesus and feeding the 5,000, and it comes to us from Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. So, have you guys heard about this before? Mm-hmm. Jesus feeding the 5,000? It's an amazing story. So let's start from the very beginning. So Jesus and his apostles, they were on a boat and they were going to this really quiet place to rest. And guess what? There was a group of people who saw that they were getting on the boat and they decided to go there on foot to the destination. They knew where they were going, and so they went on foot to their destination and they arrived ahead of Jesus and the apostles. So once Jesus and the apostles, they arrived at this destination, there was this huge crowd of people. And what do you think Jesus' reaction was when he saw a huge crowd of people? Do you think that Jesus, look at her face. Do you think that Jesus likes to be able to talk with people?
Yeah.
Yes, he sure does. He sure does.
Would be stressed about a ton of people having to talk to them.
Well, you know what? Jesus, he's pretty comfortable in front of crowds. And in fact, when he saw them, in verse 34, it says, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. What do you think sheep without a shepherd look like? What do sheep without a shepherd look like? Do they look a little bit lost?
Yeah, like this is
where
they're being taken away.
Exactly. Right. Okay, now.
Getting killed
by wolves.
Well, yeah. So anyway, so Jesus
getting killed by hunters.
Yeah. So Jesus saw this opportunity to teach them many, many things, right? So when Jesus sees a crowd, he takes that opportunity to make sure that he can take the time to talk with them, right, about God. So it was getting late, the sun was going down, and the disciples were kind of like, oh, well, it's, why don't you send these people back to their villages so that they can get dinner going and, be with their families and all of that. And do you know what Jesus said to them? Any guesses? Jesus said,
stay?
Well, he did. He said, you give them something to eat. He said it back to the disciples. And do you think that the disciples were kind of taken back by that? What do you think?
He's like, we don't have any food.
Do you think that does feeding a lot of people cost a lot of money?
Yeah.
It's like.
Do you think you'd have to go to the store and get a lot of stuff?
5,000 people at a wedding, you'd have to pay all your money.
It would be a lot of money, right?
Yeah, you'd have to pay almost all your money.
Oh my goodness. In fact, you're right. It actually says in the Bible that their response was, that would be half of a year's wages. You know what a wage is? A wage is how much you get paid, right? So that would be half of a year's wages to feed all of these people. Wow. How are we going to do this, right? And so Jesus asked them a question. He said, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And so they went out and they came back and they found 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Can you count them?
3, 4, 5.
There's 5. Yes,
it looked
exactly.
like there was 4.
Yeah, there's 5. There's 5
it's
loaves.
Just rearranged. That's just how.
Yeah, it's just a visual. So anyway, so they came back and they said, all right, Jesus, I have 5 loaves and I have 2 fish, right? Do you really think this? Do you think this will feed 5,000 people? Look at my picture.
No!
Will this feed 5,000 people? Just 5 loaves and 2 fish?
That would feed 2.
You'd have to give them a tiny crumb or something like that.
You'd have to
that
chop it
many.
up into tiny.
100 people could only have 1 loaf of bread.
Right.
Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loaves.
Yeah.
And they got to chop those up, the fish even smaller.
So guess what Jesus did?
3 times as small as these.
Jesus took these 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and he looked up to heaven and he gave thanks to God for what was given to him. And he then divided the fish and broke the bread and passed it around, and guess what? All 5,000 people ate and they were satisfied. What does satisfied mean?
Full. Content.
You're full. You're content, right? You didn't get a crumb of fish and you didn't get a crumb of bread, right?
Well, actually,
satisfied.
everyone would. So you'd have to chop this up into 100 people getting that. Getting a loaf, and then cut the fish up even smaller.
Right. So, but it says they were satisfied. So it
times
means
as
that they got a lot. Their tummies were full. It means that they were given more than just a crumb
And
of
there
what
were
we
no
would.
leftovers.
Well, you're right, Max. Thank you for bringing it up. And there was 12 baskets of leftovers. Now we're going to do a little demonstration to kind of give us a visual on this. And we're going to use bubbles, okay?
Yay!
So bubbles are so much fun. Okay, so we're going to pretend, actually you can stand up for just 1 second, then we'll sit down in just a second. So we're going to pretend that this little bubble right here, these little small bubbles are going to be the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, okay? So the disciples only had that very small amount. So ready? So they had, ready, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, okay? Were those small bubbles? Those were pretty small bubbles, right?
And then it
Do you
them again.
do you think,
them again.
real quick, do you think, question for you, do you think that we could get 5,000 bubbles out of this small little container? I don't think so. Yeah. So have a seat. We're going to do another little demonstration. So we're going to come down here and look at all their sweet faces. Okay. So what we're going to do is we think that, oh my goodness, what can I do with just this small little container, right? This small container that just blows a couple of bubbles, right? How can I get 5,000 bubbles from this small container? But guess what? With Jesus, nothing is impossible.
You can hardly get
right?
1,000.
So I'm going to add these bubbles right here to this container, okay? And we'll just pretend, we're going to pretend that this container of the bubbles are the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish. And we're just going to put some goldfish in here just to make it fun, right?
So you
So
put
ready?
in 2.
We're going to do 2 fish, and we're going to pretend that these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll do 5, we'll pretend to be the bread, okay? All right, so
This smells
watch what happens, okay? So we think that, that God, or that Jesus wouldn't be able to provide for all those many people, but watch what happens, right? Watch what happens now. We're going to dip this little water bottle. We cut off the bottom, and then we put a little sock on here. Watch what happens. Ready? Look at how many bubbles,
Give us
right?
more, give us
So
more.
what happened?
My hands are soapy now.
What happened? What happened, you guys?
My hands got soapy.
So what? So just like Jesus was able to multiply
Give us more.
multiply the loaves and the fish, just like we're able to multiply the bubbles, right? In this situation by doing this, right? So we didn't think it was possible. Let me give you a paper towel here.
Wash my hands, wash my hands.
All right, hold that.
again.
So much fun. Okay, so hold on, real quick. I
So
have some
soapy.
questions. Have a seat, sir. Okay, so Jesus referred to the 5,000 people as being sheep without
Okay,
a
I need to
shepherd,
wash my
right?
hands.
We will in just 1 second. So Jesus referred to the 5,000 people as sheep without a shepherd, right? And Jesus didn't want to send away the sheep, right? Without being able to listen to what the word of God was, right? So he wanted to give them 2 different kinds of nourishment, right? He wanted to give them spiritual nourishment, right? By talking to them. And he wanted to give them physical nourishment so that they would stick around and listen,
Can
right?
we try and do that?
In just a second. So by feeding them physically, it made them easier for them to gather and hear Jesus' words, right? So we know that Jesus can provide for all of our needs and just, our soul and our body, right? Can we trust God to provide for us? Does this demonstration of feeding the 5,000 remind us of that? Yep, it sure does. So we can be thankful for all of the gifts that he gives to us, right? All right, everybody.
Tiny napkin.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.